Overthinking is not merely an act of thinking too much. It is a landscape where thought becomes an ocean, vast, deep, and unpredictable. In the psychology of overthinking minds, we explore not only the mechanics of a restless mind, but also the poetry hidden beneath its turbulence, the philosophy that underlines its patterns, and the reflection that lights the darkest corners of its inner world. Overthinking begins quietly. It does not arrive as thunder, but as a soft tapping, a question repeated twice, a memory replayed 3 times, a possibility stretched into 5 alternate endings. The mind, initially curious, becomes captivated. Soon the thinker is no longer examining a thought. The thought is examining them. Every detail becomes a thread to unravel. Every conversation becomes a potential mistake. Every silence becomes a story unfinished. The overthinking mind is not chaotic for the sake of chaos. It is searching tirelessly for certainty in a world built on ambiguity. In psychology, overthinking often emerges from hyper-awareness, an intensified consciousness of one's emotions, decisions, and potential outcomes. Yet beneath this awareness lies a deeper force, fear. Fear of failure, fear of regret, fear of the unknown. But perhaps the most quiet yet powerful fear is this: the fear of losing control. When the world feels unstable, the mind compensates by rehearsing scenarios endlessly, believing that thinking will become a shield. But thinking is not a shield, it is a mirror. The more one stares, the more one sees, sometimes too much. To overthink is to live between moments, never quite stepping into the present nor fully retreating into the past. It is a liminal space where imagination becomes an echo chamber. Philosophers might say it is the mind's attempt to achieve mastery over experiences. Psychologists might argue it is a symptom of anxiety or perfectionism. Poets might call it the heart's trembling. Yet to the person experiencing it, overthinking feels like standing at the edge of a vast field of possibilities with no clear path leading forward. Consider the mind as a garden. Thoughts are seeds. Some grow into flowers, others into thorns. Overthinking is what happens when the gardener cannot stop digging into the soil, turning it over again and again, desperate to understand the nature of each seed before it blossoms. But soil disturbed too often cannot hold its shape. Roots cannot anchor. Flowers hesitate to bloom. The intention is good, understanding, preparing, preventing harm, but the excessive cultivation becomes the very thing that prevents growth. Overthinking is not limited to anxious minds. Even the most rational thinkers fall into its maze, for rationality itself can become a trap when pursued obsessively. Logic, when overextended, becomes circular. Every cause leads to a new consequence. Every consequence loops back to another cause. The mind spins, not because it is irrational, but because it is too logical, seeking perfect coherence in a world that thrives on contradictions. The psychology of the overthinking mind is also the psychology of memory. Memories are not fixed photographs, they are rewritten each time they are recalled. For the overthinker, this rewriting becomes a ritual. A slight comment from years ago resurfaces, reshaped, reinterpreted. A missed opportunity becomes a myth of what could have been. The mind becomes an archivist of moments, but instead of simply preserving them, it edits them, questions them, and replays them until the original meaning dissolves. Reflection, in moderation, is wisdom, but reflection without rest is erosion. When the mind does not pause, when thoughts braid themselves infinitely, the present becomes overshadowed. Overthinking minds often misinterpret the past and mispredict the future, not because they lack insight, but because they drown in it. Too much wisdom becomes a burden. Too much sensitivity becomes a wound. Yet there is beauty in the overthinking mind, an often overlooked, tender beauty. These are minds that feel deeply, observe subtly, and care intensely. They notice shifts in tone, patterns in silence, meanings between words. They carry empathy in abundance and imagination in excess. The same sensitivity that creates anxiety also creates artistry. The same depth that spirals into worry also blossoms into understanding. It is not the mind that is broken. It is merely overwhelmed by its own capacity. Philosophically, overthinking can be seen as the mind's yearning for truth. Humans crave narratives. We want to believe that events connect through invisible threads, that choices matter, that meaning exists beneath surface-level randomness. The overthinker attempts to decode these threads, but the world in its vastness resists decoding. The more one analyzes it, the more it reveals its incompleteness. And so the mind spirals, seeking answers in a universe that offers questions. In the reflective dimension, overthinking teaches us humility. It reminds us that the mind is not an instrument to be controlled absolutely, but a companion to be understood. Minds are like rivers. When allowed to flow naturally, they nourish. When dammed excessively, they overflow. The overthinking mind is not a mistake of evolution. It is an evolutionary feature turned inward too often, too intensely. From a poetic perspective, overthinking is the moonlit side of consciousness. It is the twilight between certainty and doubt, where shadows stretch and meanings deepen. To overthink is to wander into the labyrinth of what if, carrying only a lantern of memory and a compass of emotion. Sometimes one emerges with newfound clarity, other times with exhaustion. Yet even in exhaustion, there is the quiet wisdom that comes from having walked through one's inner landscape. The overthinking mind often craves peace, yet fears the stillness required to achieve it. Silence can feel threatening, for it leaves space for thoughts to echo. And yet silence is the only doorway to understanding. The mind, when allowed to rest, reveals truths not through analysis but through presence. Peace is not the absence of thought but the acceptance of it. One of the most profound lessons of the psychology of overthinking is this: thoughts lose their power when they are observed, not resisted. When the thinker learns to watch thoughts like passing clouds, each one becomes lighter. Meditation, mindfulness, and grounded breathing are not mere techniques. They are invitations to return home to the body, to the heartbeat, to the present moment. Overthinking minds often forget that they are more than their thoughts. Thoughts are events, not identities. They arise, they fade, the thinker remains. When this separation is understood, not intellectually but experientially, the spiral loosens. The mind becomes a sky and thoughts become weather. Storms may come, but storms always pass. Philosophers speak of the middle way, the path between extremes. For the overthinker, the middle way is the space between reaction and reflection. It is the art of thinking without collapsing into the thinking. It is the delicate balance of awareness without obsession. It is the gentle recognition that life is lived not in theories but in moments.